Hello and welcome back to the next episode of Speak. This one I think is going to be awesome. We are talking specifically about brand, and we're probably going to go through all of the things. So what is brand to us? What do we mean? Well, we're going to kick off by sharing with you how we got to this week's topic, because it's personal, I guess. So this week, being really open, I sent Elisa a message that was just like, I am sometimes really jealous of the fact you get to just say what you think, how you think, with whatever language you like, in whatever manner, and you get to just be. And actually, God, that feels good. It looks so good. And it does stir jealousy in me. And I was absolutely, and I will say this, so shocked that the response wasn't, yeah, no, it's wicked. There was another response on the end of this. And Lisa, why don't you go into like what the response to that was?
Yeah, it's interesting. Because even there were you going, oh, it looks so good, it sounds so good. But I don't think that everyone would agree. Because I'm sure there's lots of people who find it quite abrasive, and I suppose I am specifically talking about the swearing. Like I'm not really talking about how, yes, I'm quite direct and I'm quite abrupt, but it's definitely the swearing. And well, yeah, probably the abrasiveness and the abruptness as well, but there's definitely a part of it when you were saying that to me of like, oh, I'd love to be like that, whereas there's definitely, it has developed as like a form of defensiveness. Be the funny one, be kind of crass, be what, be tough as fuck and no one can take you down.
Yeah.
Like it's an armor, it's a shield.
Yeah.
And it's probably like I've always been like this, but I suppose in my personal life I've always been like this. But it's definitely I've become more fucking abrasive as I've got older.
Yeah.
But in the last couple of years, in I suppose in work as well, I've been like that. Now, definitely working in construction definitely allows for the swearing and the bolginess and the bit of argy-bargy or whatever.
Yeah.
But I suppose when you talk about like personal brand or branding, I've leaned into it hard in the last couple of years. In my LinkedIn posts, podcasting, any interviews I do, like, yeah, it's fucking Lisa, she's gonna come on, she's gonna swear and have a laugh. And while it is fun, and some people go, oh, it's really fresh and it's different, it's probably limiting as well when we talk about brand.
Do you get bored of people saying refreshing and what they mean is she swears? You get bored of it?
A little bit. Like, well, I don't know. See, I could be just taking it as that's what they mean. Like,
yeah,
like I could be totally making it up myself that it's like, oh, I only get on because I get invited on podcasts because I have a funny accent and I swear a lot and it's a bit of crack. But like that's look, I am good crack. But like that's probably me projecting as well.
Yeah.
I'm sure. Well, I fucking hope they're asking me on for something more than that. But it definitely, I would think that is, there's an entertainment value there.
I think there's something in there that is, you are so well read, you are so educated in this space, far beyond, right? Far beyond anything that I could even, I mean, I can't put a scratch on the amount that you read and know about and digest, and I think it's incredible. And I think you're right. I think people, that's the brand part, right? Is they think of how could we lift our podcast? I hope that what it is the amazing information that Elisa holds, and the research and the knowledge and the fact that she is direct and will not BS it. She will not, but also she's good crack. And I would hope that was what your brand, because it's interesting, isn't it? The whole thing about brand is what you leave in the room after you leave. It's how you're described to other people when you're not there. If somebody's going to tell somebody they should give Elisa a call, Crystal a call, Bob a call, good old Bob comes up in every podcast,
Never a podcast without Bob.
Never a podcast for that safety Bob. It's how they would describe that person and what merits them going into the role, the job, the podcast, the book, the whatever. But yeah, I found it so interesting that it wasn't necessarily just like, yeah, it's just so great.
It's brilliant. You should try it.
Brilliant. And I think on the flip of it, the bit that's really interesting is on the flip of it, you're talking about it being like a defense mechanism, and it's like, you know, if I am very direct, it's very difficult for most people to challenge a very direct person, but also you know your stuff backwards as well, so it's even harder. But I think from my side, it's, and having come from starting in that engineering space, right, where I had to learn not to swear in an office. I had to buy a disgusting brown suit for my first office job interview because I didn't.
Brown.
Oh my God, I can't even tell you.
Brown.
Chris Clark, if you ever listen to this, you can attest to the fact that I wore that disgusting. I used to have to wear disposable clothes in case I contaminated them. I had to throw them away. And then I got asked this interview with Chris Clark and a guy called Martin Talbot. And I had never bought a suit before. So I went to New Look and I bought like a chocolate brown suit with like a beige frilly, I didn't know, like it was so bad. And I remember one of the first things that I said when I walked into the room was, is this what it should look like? And I'm sure they both thought, no. Actually, the answer
actually, it's not.
Absolutely not. But she's given it a bash. But yeah, so I had to sort of work my way out of it. But I think it's those days when you feel like you've got so much to say and you have to really think about it before you say it. It feels the weight of brand.
Yeah.
Oh, it can feel heavy, man. It can feel so heavy. And even like a really interesting thing is like blazer and t-shirt. I actually thought today putting this on, if I was going into London, would this be acceptable? Like I see people all the time in like blazers and white trainers, and is this okay? The fact I have to be so present in my what goes with what looks okay. It's sometimes, most of the time, it's completely natural.
Yeah.
But there are some days where you just want to say, like our podcast, this is our safe space. We want to share it with everybody else. It's not about being perfect. And we've said that's why we don't edit. Sometimes you want to just say, you use a phrase, which I love. Every now and again it comes up. And you always say, you can fuck all the way off. It's my favorite phrase that has ever existed. And sometimes even just having a crack, you want to be able to say that, just having a laugh with each other. And what weighs on me is, you mentioned earlier the word limiting, and we sort of scraped over the top of it, is I know now that my brand is really important, and I don't ever want to do anything that could come back to me later with this is a fantastic opportunity that you could have had, but you did this thing once and it doesn't match with whatever it is, brand values, etc. So I tone that middle part of myself. I would say, I mean, you've been out with me, we've met. This is how I am all the time. It's just when I'm off camera of podcasts, it's just it's a bit more blue. A little bit more blue, not loads more blue, but a little bit more blue. But that's a weight now. That career-wise, I do feel like I have to take care and nurture that and make sure that I'm taking care of it.
Yeah, and it's something that, like, yeah, you should protect. And it is worth being mindful of, because your brand links to the brands of companies you work with.
Yeah,
you know, and definitely when we talk about that, like, it can be limiting. I am acutely aware that there are brands that will never work with me because of the way I speak.
Yeah.
It isn't, and even when we were starting our podcast, and even when I went on a few of the, like, as a guest on podcasts, I was kind of like, there was a point in time where I had to decide, what
Am
am
I
I going
all
to
the
put?
way in?
That it's what's it going to be?
Yeah.
And I just thought, fuck it.
Yeah.
Like, no, because I think, I don't think I would lend myself well to trying to be constrained.
Yeah.
I think I think it would weigh very heavily on me. Like, I would find it very difficult to have to temper what I want to say, all not all the time, but definitely within reason. But yeah, it does. I do sometimes think, have I limited myself in the opportunities that I might never know that I'll get? Somebody will have heard me speaking and be like, yeah, I like her ideas, but couldn't bring her into a boardroom. That I'll never know. I'll
Yeah.
never know. But that's not to say that there won't be fantastic opportunities where it will be with someone who doesn't care about that and who's just like, this is going to be a fucking good match, and it'll be great crack as well.
Yeah. And I think that goes with what you end up with is, by say, as long as, I'll go back a step. I think the most important thing, especially for people that are kind of honing their brand now, really new to this, starting in their career, it's not about being someone other than yourself. And as mentioned, this is who I am at work, with my team, with my family. This is me.
Like, to be fair, it really is.
Yeah.
Like, while you're going, I'm a bit more blue, I'm like, you're not that much fucking more.
Yeah, no, I'm not.
You're still like very sweetness and light with the odd fuck thrown in here. But
yeah. Yeah.
but like at the same time, this is very authentic to you, so it works.
Yeah. And I think that's one of the most important things that I could ever say to anybody is, like you said, there was a point where you were like, am I all the way in? Am I going to put myself all in here? And yes, I am. The only thing you can ever really do is make sure that what your brand is, it represents who you are authentically, because you are stuck with a brand, and it's very difficult to change your brand once you've done it, once you've landed it and landed it well. And the other thing, and goes back to your exact point, is businesses will or won't work with you based on that brand. And that's a great thing, because if Facebook, Meta, Google, whatever, loves you and sees you on podcasts and was like, how this is totally our values, it means the right business and the right opportunity has met the right person. Bring that together. Glorious. But also, somebody could look at me and go, oh, a bit straight-laced. Don't know if she's going to fit in with the sort of high banter in the office. That's great, because it's the wrong person, a great opportunity, and a business that shouldn't go together. So I think you're absolutely right, is there'll be organizations that might not ever approach you about a role, but damn straight, if they're not approaching you, it's not an environment that you'd probably thrive in.
Yeah.
So brand matches values, matches opportunity. Like, if you get them to match the opportunity as well, you're going to be somewhere that you love. And I really like the fact that it means if somebody approaches you, they know you. There's no getting over, and I wonder if week one they're going to be okay with you.
Yeah. It's all out there.
Yeah. I recently did my the fellowship interview, and one of the interviewers said, it's very easy with you because you've got quite an online presence, and we can literally just go and see you, right? Yeah. And I was like, oh, in the moment I felt quite vulnerable.
Yeah, you're like, oh shit, what did I post online, man?
But it's exactly, that's the bit, is I am completely okay with me, even if sometimes I'm really thinking about how not to say F all the way off. I'm just like, how do I say this professionally? But
I don't think we're aligning right at the moment. Let's regroup at another time.
Yes. All the way off. The difference between you and me is that's 100% right. It's like, I feel like we should come back to this.
Let's circle back, guys.
Yeah. Something's got lost in translation here, guys. But I think it's really important for people to understand on both sides. You can be looking at somebody you really idolize, right, online. The writer, whatever. And you could be thinking, that's awesome. You don't actually have a single clue what it's like for the individual or how they feel about what you think looks awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, because when we were voice noting back and forth, and you're like, oh, this is class. And I had said to you, I had literally just seen a post on LinkedIn of this other podcaster being invited to speak at a conference, paid gig, no doubt. And I was like, we're in the same space. There's no fucking way I would ever get asked to go do that.
Yeah.
And just so every so often you kind of go, ugh, damn it. But I mean, it is what it is. And I suppose the other thing as well is, like, probably the word brand or branding, it's not something I would have ever thought of really before. And it's not something that I think a lot of people generally think about.
Yeah.
But I suppose if you phrase more like reputation.
Yeah.
Because that's what it is. Like, there's not a lot of people who have an online presence or who are posting regularly on LinkedIn going, hey, like, putting yourself out there. And, well, I was about to say, I highly recommend it. Maybe not as much now. I definitely think a couple of years ago, there was probably more interaction. The algorithm's fucked on LinkedIn now. Like, it's very hard to get a good conversation going on there.
Yeah.
But I still
something's changed.
Yeah, it's still worth, like, posting content and putting your views out there just to see, like, you know, have chats with people. But yeah.
I think the brand thing's quite interesting because I think, I don't know about you, I'm just gonna be really open. For years I saw the webinars and the conferences and the, you know, build a brand or whatever. It's not build a bear. You know, you don't go in and you can't write it all down and then start. It's essentially be yourself consistently, deliver consistently, and you will be known for both of those things. That's it.
Yeah.
And people put the nice fancy tag of brand. And I actually think it's really peculiar. But now I obviously have one. I didn't make it. I didn't do anything purposeful. I know what I love and I just keep doing that. But I found it quite interesting when somebody said to me recently, will you come, it wasn't recently, about 6 months ago, will you come and do a brand thing? I was like, oh, what would I know about brand? And they were like, well, yours is so strong. And I was like, what do you,
is it?
can you write it down? I'd like to know what my brand is. And I think that's the thing. It's that language, isn't it? When you're talking about reputation, what are you known for and how are you described when you leave a room? And also, I'm going to just go off on a little tangent here. The most interesting thing I ever did was ask people how they perceive me when I was doing right.
Don't want to know.
Right. I'm going to tell you something and you'll laugh at me and it's fine and I welcome it because I then said it to my partner who then laughed at me. I genuinely want to understand how you are perceived by me, because sometimes if you're working with people and you're leading people, it can be really painful. Actually, their perception of you it's difficult. Yeah. So I always do this feedback. And somebody said to me, you're just so positive. And I was like, what are you on about? And they were like, you don't know that you're a positive person? I was like, no, I'm constantly looking for things to fix. I'm constantly thinking of harm. I'm constantly thinking about people getting hurt. It's negative stuff. And they were like, no. You're always saying, how do we fix? Your assumption is people can be helped, situations can be made better. And they went on this like massive tirade of because you start the negative, you assume you're negative, but actually everything you say is about everything being better. And even you described me earlier as like, oh, was it sweetness and light or something like that? Yeah. Genuinely, until this year, I had no idea that I was perceived as positive. None.
What?
Yes, none.
Jesus Christ, you're sickeningly positive. Like, oh my God. Like, do you remember last week I was trying to give out about Jeff Bezos and you're like, no, Jeff gave me Calpol. And I was like, oh, fuck, come on. Frick, stop putting a positive spin on this.
She went home to Rich and I was just like, someone called me positive today. And I was like, yeah, what's the problem? I was like, I'm not positive. He was like, are you, same reaction. Shut up. So I think, I learned it about myself. But 20, what am I this year? I'm 39 in a couple of months. I went 38 and a half years having no idea that was positive. So wherever you think your brand is, people, have a little perception test with people that you work with, words that describe you, things like that.
Yeah.
You may be surprised.
You may be surprised.
Mm.
Yeah. And then, I think it's probably more, reputation versus brand. I just, like when you say, you're like, well, I'm not, when somebody invited you, oh, come on and talk about brand. And you're like, what would I, because it never feels like you're actively building a brand.
Yeah.
Like
I
even when
worry.
even when we were like talking about doing this episode, I was like, well, I don't have a brand. I really wouldn't have thought of myself of having a brand, being a brand, any of that kind of stuff.
And you do.
Yeah.
Yeah, very much so. I think maybe that's the thing, isn't it? Is you've probably got people researching the hell out of, go into these webinars, and then we're probably being very infuriating right now, which is like, oh, you two now have brands and you don't even know how you got there or whatever. Just be consistent in doing what you believe in. And that doesn't mean that it's easy or you're going to love every minute of it, because work is sometimes sucky, but do what matters to you and be yourself. And actually, those two things alone, that's what builds it. That's enough. Just to do that consistently for several years. Holly is really, really dynamite at this. She brings a great spin. You want her in that room on that day. She will. That's that topic. We're going to run a conference on that. Yeah, Polly's the one. Put her on the stage. Consistent and be yourself. So yeah, I think simplify the language is required.
Yeah.
Or demystify it, maybe. I think people maybe have just made millions off of trying to make people feel like they should be building this thing called brand.
Well, yeah, it's this brand and influence and influencer or all that kind of
jazz. What did I had down here? I had down here a couple of things. Limiting expression. I had a really interesting challenge by somebody when I went on a podcast, and it was about brand or perception of myself. And I'd rocked up, I'd been really busy with them. And I think I just had like a sweatshirt on or something. And they went to press record. I said, can you just give me a minute? I don't feel comfortable like this. I'm going to go and just change into a nice top, put a necklace on, and I'll be back. And I got a real challenge. You're being inauthentic. This is what you look like at home. Why can't you just be in your sweats? And I was like,
fuck off.
Right. And so I was just like, well, this is, and I went to change, and it was so interesting. We had a mini conversation before, and they said, what was that about? You know, you were obviously at home uncomfortable. You should be able to do whatever you want in whatever clothes you want to do. And I said, well, I'm choosing these clothes. This is my choice. And the question posed to me was, so do you have to be inauthentic so that you can be on here? I think he said, are you being inauthentically authentic? I said, what does that mean? And he'd said something along the lines of, you have to look a certain way to be able to sort of deliver who you are. And it was a really interesting challenge for me on it. It made me think about the outfit piece. Like, what is this? Is this attached to brand? And what is sort of brand damaging, all that sort of stuff. And I got to the point, I just thought there's a big difference between being inauthentic and having agency. I choose what I'm bringing to work. I choose what I bring to a podcast. I don't have to limit myself. I'm just choosing what parts of myself to share, and that's within my control, and that's my own gift. But I think it's quite interesting that you can have people challenge that if you're not comfortable turning up in sweats and scrubs, that's not real because it's not real you. I don't know, maybe this is just
I'm struggling. I'm struggling now.
Go on.
I just like, come on, like, for fuck's sake, like, oh God.
Yeah.
I don't think the fucking question he asked was authentic. Fuck off. Like, if I want to put on a nice top because I'm being fucking beamed out to a couple of thousand people, that's not inauthentic. That's just today I might feel more presentable in X.
Yeah.
Like, it's not that deep, dude. It's
Yeah.
not that deep.
Yeah, thank you. And I
Like,
think that was just like, if there's anyone listening that gets that hard time of you should. It's
don't
not.
shit all over me. Shit all
Yeah.
over yourself.
Yeah. Just do whatever you want. And that's the thing. Is wear what you want to wear, dress how you want to dress, work where you want to work, say what you want to say. Apart from my favourite phrase in the world, which I can't bring myself to say.
So I'll say it for you. Fuck all the way off.
Oh, it's just the best. But yeah, I think this has been it's a really, really interesting topic. And I'm glad we went into it. And I know it's like slightly personal and stuff, but I think it's good perspective, especially particularly for the young people coming up through like middle of their career that are really focusing on this stuff at the moment.
Yeah.
So I guess one of my questions then, why don't we start getting a little bit helpful? So if someone's listening, the stuff that we think builds a brand, this is not about you and I, the people out there that've got a great brand that you love, what sorts of things are they doing? You mentioned like posting on LinkedIn, but is there anything else that people could be doing to just kind of share their reputation, be more present if that's what they want to do? Because I'm rubbish at it. The only thing I really do is I love LinkedIn. I love reading the articles on there. But even in some of my posts, they're typically just a share. I really like this thing. But what for you? Is there any other things that you do or people could do?
I suppose for me it is very LinkedIn centric. Like, that's where I make most of my connections. That's where I have conversations with people. That's where I get links to really good articles, really good research papers, all that kind of stuff. So it does kind of, and for me, that's where it started, like by being present. And it's that thing of being present. That might not necessarily be posting, but definitely interacting and commenting on stuff, giving your input. Because I think the other thing is, like, it's so important to share your opinion so that conversations are happening.
Yeah.
Because your opinion is valid.
Yeah.
Like, we need to start, like, it's having opinions about how we're tackling certain things in safety or whatever it is. But like, I don't know, it kind of feels like a lot of times people go, they do their qualification and then they're in their job and that's it. And it's like, like, get a conversation going. Tell us what you're struggling with, what you think about things, what you think is great, what you think is not so great. Like, I just think we're so limited in the forums that we have for those kind of conversations for people really to get going. And I know there is a few, obviously there's IOSH-RSM, there's that new one beyond HSEQ, there's all these, and so that's great, there's things happening. So I would say, if you can go to them, speak, it can be nerve-wracking, but speak to them. But definitely, for me, it definitely starts with engaging online.
Yeah.
And there is a bit of like putting yourself out there if you want to.
Yeah.
Like, it all, I think it does depend as well on what your career ambitions are, because not everyone wants to go to director and that's fine. You don't, like, so it really depends. I think it's figuring out what your career ambitions are and then seeing it's really what you can leverage to make that happen. And part of that is your personal brand, your online presence. Your online presence can then lead to the in-person presence where you get to go to speak on panels and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, I don't know about you, but I think the whole networking space has got a lot better than it had sort of 15 years ago. It was just dry, say people in the room, walking CVs. It feels like the industry, the health and safety profession have got better at, people want to come and learn something. Typically there is something. There is a panel, there is something being discussed that is kind of fruity, meaty.
That's it. It's like, I don't, like you say, the walking CV, I don't want to know what job you have what jobs you've had. I want to know what your opinion is on the topics of the day. That's what I want to know. And
I think I had a mentoring session a long time ago by a lady called Anna. And I remember her asking about like career progression, this, that, and the other. She said, do you network? And I was like, no, I hate it.
Was this Anna Keane?
Yeah, Anna Keane. I love Anna Keane. And I remember, and I've said this to her a million times and to other people, she gave me the best boot up the butt that I ever had. And she just cold looked at me in the eye and she was like, well, who knows who you are then? And I was like, well, what do you mean? She was like, well, if you're not anywhere, you're not posting anything, you're not in a room, you're not attending a thing, how are you even learning about a job? How are you learning about anything that's changing? Who knows you? I was just like, oh God, no one, because I'm, as exactly as you said, going to work, doing my job, and I'm going home, and then thinking, oh, I wonder where those opportunities are in all the rooms.
In all the rooms.
In all the rooms. So yeah, get out there. And I think that posting leading to in person is a very good shout.
Yeah. And even like what I can't believe how easy it's been the last and it's definitely since COVID, but the amount of people who like will connect on LinkedIn. For fuck's sake, if you connect with somebody, send them a message, please. Just be like, hi, this is why I connected with you. I like whatever you're doing or whatever.
Yeah.
But the thing of people are so open to be like, do you want to jump on a call and have a chat?
Yeah.
Random strangers, like the amount of random strangers from like the other side of the world. I'm like, let's have a chat. And now, like, there's one of the lads in Australia. It's like, do you know what? Let's have a Zoom every 2 or 3 months. Catch up, see what you're doing. He's now like in real life friend.
It's amazing.
So it's awkward, but like, yeah, put yourself out there.
Awkward, well, it pays off as well, right? Because you end up in an echo chamber. If you're sitting on your own doing your day job, you just end up validating your own thoughts. Nothing is going to grow bigger than what you already know, unless you're sharing it with other people. The amount that we challenge each other, even just on work, whatever, life.
Yeah.
Love that. I love that, getting out there. I think that's definitely numero uno. And then also, I think if you're out there and you're applying for opportunities at the moment, so I know this is really lame to mention, but CV, just make sure that really reflects who you actually are, and it's not dry and looking grubby and grim, and you're applying for grubby and grim.
Grubby CV.
You know, like all over the place, not formatted, different fonts, all the stuff. And I know it's not everyone's cup of tea, but take your time with it, because if you aren't in those rooms and people don't already know, oh, John, legend, love John, I already know what he's about because I saw him at this RSM thing or this IOSH thing, great. If that's all that's in the room at the moment, make that the strongest. Think about it. And I've seen some dazzling CVs, because I think you can just pay people you can pay for templates or whatever now. But yeah, I think that's the other thing is, if you're not out there and it's not your natural thing to go and network, doesn't mean you're never going to progress. But if your number one way of communicating with a business is that piece of paper, make it be you. Make it be you in paper form. So anything else you want to say on brand?
Don't think so. I think we've I think we've gone as far as we can go with it. I think it was a pretty good chat.
Yeah, me too. So I think that's probably a very natural end to this episode. So thank you everybody for listening. And this one was very personal, but sometimes it's really nice to learn from other people, but just hear about other people's experiences, that you're not alone in the awkward world of networking, brand, reputation. But yeah, it's been a blast. Thank you very much for joining us, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks for the next episode of Speak.
See you later.
Bye.